We've just finished up 1-point perspective and now we're moving on to 2-point perspective. I'm going to add in my horizon line just like we did before, being sure that that's parallel to the edge of your paper. I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. And for 2-point perspective, as you might have guessed, there are 2 points for the vanishing points. We're going to have one over on the left. We're going to call this one Lucy. And one over on the right, we're going to call Randy. Randy and Lucy are really good friends of ours, and we will be checking in with them quite often. The first part of 2-point perspective will be drawing the corner of the box. I'm going to give you a short little glimpse here of what we're going to be ending up with. Our starting point will be this line. Everything from there will create our box. So we're going to choose a spot for that. I'm left-handed, so my pencil's in my left, my ruler's in the right. Feel free to flip your paper around whenever you need to. You don't need to be crossing hands or anything like that. For the video, I will be keeping the paper as straight as possible, but when I demonstrate in person, as I'm going to in just a little bit, I'll be moving my paper around and talk a little bit more about that. But we're starting off with the corner of the box. Each side of this line needs to check in with Lucy and Randy, and that'll be true with every single line we add as we add the different parts of the dimensions for the box. So if I put my pencil on the point of the line and then line my ruler up here, I'm going to go back towards Randy and I'm going to do a little lift. That way towards the end it gets a little lighter. And put my pencil here. And this will help going back into space and having the illusion of value reduction, which is when you add shade to make things look further or closer to you. Line there, and then one more at the top. Be sure to always check to make sure that your ruler is pointed in the direction that you want it to go, always at a vanishing point. So now we're going to add in the dimensions. And I'm going to add in on the right first. And what I'm going to do is put my pencil down right on that beginning line that we have so that we can double check to make sure all of these lines are parallel, because that's very important when you're drawing in 2-point perspective. And I'm going to use my ruler. So I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller, but I'm checking up here and down here to be sure that these will never intersect. They'll never crisscross, that they'll stay parallel. So I should have the same distance here as down here if my pencil and ruler are lined up, which they are. I'm going to go ahead and draw that spot in. And we'll do the same thing on this other side. I'm going to put my pencil down, making sure that that's straight on there. And I'm going to check the space in between here. And I'm going to put my line on this side. Just like that. So now we need to double check with our friends Lucy and Randy to make sure both ends of this line, these lines, connect into the vanishing points, just like we did with the original line. So if I start with the line on the left, this one does go back to Lucy, but it doesn't go back to Randy, so we need to add that in. Just like before, putting your pencil on that point, and then ruler back to Randy. And then I'm going to double check on this other one as well. So we're going to jump over here. This one connects to Randy, but not to Lucy. So I'm going to put my pencil on there, back to outer space, and then the top. So we did the bottoms. As you can see, both of those are connected. Now we need to do the top. Both of these need to go to the opposite sides. So I'm going to start with the one on the left. The top goes to Lucy, but not to Randy. This one goes to Randy, but not Lucy. And now you have your 2-point perspective box. We're going to work a little bit in value reduction and line weight, like I talked about a little bit ago. So in order to make this look a little more 3D and actually have this spot look very close to us, we're going to darken that up. And this is called line weight. So by making a line look darker, you'll actually make it look closer to you. So I'm using my shading pencil. I'm going to add a little bit there. I'm going to add just a little bit here and have it fade back. So this area is going to be very close to me. You could do this with your regular pencil that you were working with, but since I'm going to show you a little bit of shading technique as well, I'm using my graphite pencil, and you'll be using your shading pencils too. So on each of these, I'm making sure the ruler is lined up with the vanishing point. We're just going to go a little ways. You can play around with this. If you really start to understand, feel free to take some time and play around with shading, because it'll come in handy when we go to draw out buildings and things like that, where you can add a whole lot of dimension. So this line, I kind of had an abrupt break right here, but you get the idea. This part is darker, so that's looking really heavy and closer to us. Now I'm going to take the blender and I'm going to shade this a little bit. You can also do this with the shading. You could do something where this is darker, fades to light. You could do this side dark, maybe this a medium, and this is a really light. There's some different options you can do to really add dimension to this and have a lot of fun. With my blender, I'm using a circular motion, so I'm pulling a little bit of that shade from the line that we added, but I'm also using some of what's already on the blender, and that's my favorite, is just being able to pick up a blender, add a little bit of shade without even doing anything. You can decide if you want this to be a box, maybe with an opening looking in, so then your shading will be a little bit different. You could use this base down here. I'm actually going to ignore it, so this will be a flat side of the box. And once I've done that, you can take your eraser and clean up any of those edges where you might have got a little carried away with the blending. So as you can see, I have this darker edge right here. This is a little bit lighter. If I wanted to get really into what I was doing, I could even take the shading pencil on this side, add just a very, very light shade, and then use the blender to make that just a little bit darker, be a little more dramatic. And I could do something maybe just like a medium on this side, perhaps, since it's already there. Have a lot of fun with this though. Try some different techniques and see. I'm mainly looking at your 2-point perspective to be sure that you can do that. But I want you to do the shading as an extra step. So if you don't get to shading today, that's okay. I might even take some off of here. I'm going to finish working on this. So kind of be thinking about what you want to do and how you want your shading to look. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.